Welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast. I'm Nathan Shields, and I've got my friend and coaching client, Kristi Plunk from Beyond. Let me make sure I get it right. Beyond Physical Therapy and Wellness, right?
Yeah, technically, our IRS name is Beyond Therapy and Wellness, but our
Oh,
logo
okay.
is cut it down to Beyond Physical Therapy.
Oh, okay. Beyond Physical Therapy out of Fort Worth, Texas. Kristi, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So I wanted to highlight Kristi today because she does something that I would say probably a minority of physical therapy clinics do not do, and I really wanted to highlight it because I think it's something that every physical therapy clinic should be doing on a regular basis, and that is collecting, first of all, collecting the copays, coinsurances, deductibles at the time of service, no matter what, all the time. And secondly, having a credit card on file to do so. And Kristi does it on a regular basis. Collections have been significantly better. I'm assuming revenue has also increased because of it. And so I wanted to highlight simply that practice today. And to get into it, what was the impetus for you to decide, you know what, I'm not going to collect after the fact anymore. I'm not going to have any more of those awkward conversations at the front desk when I'm trying to charge a cancellation fee or whatnot. What was the impetus?
Well, it has been a little bit of an evolution of the current policy that we're at right now, that really started at the end of 2021. We had a really great year that year, better than we had ever done, even though COVID was still very much prominent, in impacting how people went out and about their lives. But and I had an interesting conversation with a patient that was a physical therapy manager at another clinic. And towards the end of 2021, we had a significant spike in the percentage of cancellations. And this was like, I mean, I'm 10 years into it and then had this crazy cancellation rate that I'd never seen before. And so I kind of assessed, what are we doing differently? What's playing a role in this? And then I had this conversation with this other PT manager, and it was like our growth and our cancellation rate was almost identical
Mhm.
that year. And I never met her before. We are specialized in pelvic health and lymphedema. They are an outpatient ortho clinic. So having that conversation with her made me start thinking, okay, the psyche of people is different now. The way that people think about going out, the way people think about other people, responsibility for things maybe that they'd signed up for, commitment to health, getting out of the house, all of those things play into kind of the psyche changes that happened with COVID. So that was kind of my first inkling that, okay, our brains are different now. Like we've been through this kind of traumatic event, and it definitely, obviously, has had impacts on our business. And I believe one of the things was a significant number of cancellations, not just related to illness,
Mhm.
because we'd been experiencing COVID then for, a year and a half already.
Right.
So that was the start of it. And then that next year started losing money that year. And
Mhm.
honestly, that year, 2022, I had lost more money than I'd ever lost. I mean, I lost more money than what it took me to open up my clinic in the first place.
And it's still related to the cancellation rates.
Well, I don't think it was just related to the cancellation rates. I think that was part of it. But another significant factor that I think was probably the primary player was that Google algorithm changed.
Mhm.
So before that, because we're pelvic floor and there's not many pelvic floor providers, we're in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. There's millions of people here. We're kind of in the center of the Metroplex. So we would get people from traveling in to come see us. So our SEO was fabulous. Uh, Everything was going great. Most of our referrals were self referrals, not necessarily
Right.
physician referrals. And then Google changed their algorithm. So if you were not in a location that was like a certain distance to your clinic, then Google wasn't pulling up those options when
Mhm.
you were looking. So our SEO tanked.
Mm.
And I didn't necessarily know this was happening for, it took me like a couple months to figure out what was going on, but significant drop in referrals. And so at that point, I decided I definitely have to do things differently. Like, I can't, this is not sustainable. So there's been many things that I've done since that time. One of them being working with you and Adam, which has been, I just kick myself that I didn't start coaching sooner in my career as a business owner. So I also started working with Practice Promotions, and they now manage my SEO. They stay up with any algorithm changes
Oh, okay.
to kind of protect us from that
Hmm.
in the future, because that's not my area of expertise. I can't,
Hmm.
that, yeah,
Sure.
have to hire the experts for that. But on top of that, I also realized we had to do something different with collections. So
Hmm.
I'm not unique in the fact that if we don't collect everything up front and there's a bill at the end of the month, when people pay that bill, we're excited because most people
Yeah,
don't pay their bills,
that's true.
their medical bills, anyways. And I actually had a friend that was, I think people believe that they don't necessarily have to pay their medical bills. I think they don't believe that it goes on their credit. So I think there's like a whole, incorrect thought process there.
Mhm.
And we, just as a side note, we actually don't send anything to collections. I've just personally never
Yeah,
felt great about doing that.
yeah.
But I think people do have some thought in their mind that they don't necessarily have to pay their medical bills.
Well, and
Um,
it shows up in the statistics. I saw a study by McKinsey, which is a prominent accounting firm, I believe. But for every dollar that's not collected at the time of service, you'll lose up to 50 to 60 cents on that dollar trying to collect it afterwards. So
yeah.
that goes to your point. Patients, if they're not in front of you, you're not going to get as much money as you can at that time of service. That's why it's imperative, especially when you lay out that anywhere from 10, 15, maybe 20% of your entire revenue is patient copays, insurances, and deductibles. And to lose 50 cents on that dollar is just that's a lot of profit to be lost in a given year.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with deductibles being higher now.
Yeah.
I think we're close to 30% is collected from patients.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, of our total revenue, 30% comes from, patient
Yeah.
payments and deductibles, or they're
Yeah.
going.
So you have to be on top of that, or that's a huge hit to your profit margin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So what made you decide to finally take a stand and say, hard line, we're going to collect at the time of service every time. You're going to have a credit card on file. Yeah. What was that final tipping point?
Well, I've always had pretty good collection at the front desk, but everybody is human. So if somebody walks away from the front desk, or say there's two people waiting and somebody leaves and they didn't get to hand them their card,
Mhm.
then you're gonna miss some.
Mhm.
Even if patients have the best intentions and your front desk is really on top of everything. So I felt like we had our systems down pretty good, but there's still just that element that you're always going to have some missed.
Mhm.
In terms of collecting. And then we also have this, I've had a cancellation policy in place where we charge $40 for same day cancellations if it's not made up in the same week. I've had that in place for years.
Right.
But collecting is very, very difficult. I mean, having that conversation, they come in the next time, you're like, well, I've got to charge you for your cancellation that you missed last time. And then you have this confrontation with your front desk person
Mhm.
and the patient, and everybody's uncomfortable, and your front desk doesn't want to do
Yeah.
that. So
Give me your credit card so I can charge you the cancellation fee, please. And they're like, I don't want to give you my credit card if that's the case.
yeah, pretty much every human being is going to want to have a conversation about this charge that they're getting
Yeah, exactly.
for no service.
Yeah,
We just had to change the process. So, storing credit cards, I know like my dermatologist makes us have a credit card on file.
right.
And it's a $50 cancellation fee if you cancel the same day, but they won't even see you the first time as a new patient without a card on file.
Yeah.
And
So
a
this
pet
we're
peeve
not
of
breaking
mine.
new ground here. This is
Right. Yeah.
this has
Nothing
been
new.
done. It's very normal.
Yeah. And the massage therapists are doing it.
Right.
And the hairdressers. I have like my hairdresser
Really?
charges, gosh, definitely more than $80. Definitely more than $40 if I cancel same day, which I've had to do before.
Right. And
So
they're like, don't worry about it. I'm just going to charge your card
yeah.
with a smile.
And and that's how it should be. You don't want that confrontation.
Right.
So yeah, I decided we have to do something different. Decided to store the credit cards. And initially I started with Square because we
Hmm.
didn't have it integrated in our EMR.
Oh, okay.
So Square does have a higher percentage credit card fee,
Right.
and I would charge half of that. So I would charge 2.5% when we use Square, which was kind of a different battle. Most people were understanding of it, but you do get a
Yeah.
little bit more of
There's
a
that.
conversation
But
with people.
it's a little bit tangential, but I have no problems with it, and I'm pretty sure it's okay in most states, if not all, for you to charge the merchant services fee. And so
Mhm.
if you are, you know, collecting a deductible of say $150, $250, even if it's a 3% merchant services fee, that's significant.
It
And so you say,
is.
okay, we're going to charge it, but if we're going to charge it, we have to charge you the merchant services fee. And if you're going to do that, of course, I'm sure you have it posted there as well that you're charging the services fee as well for any credit card transaction. So yeah, it can be done. I would just recommend that it be posted and patients know about it, and that's not a surprise. Um, but having that there and available is really helpful as well. Otherwise, you're taking a 3% hit on everything you collect. And again, that's just taking money out of your pocket and the possibilities you can do to invest back in your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't have too many people have an issue with that. It was you just, have a conversation about it and of course have it in your paperwork, like you said.
Yeah.
Um, so we started doing that and implementing also that we were charging any balances at the end of the month automatically on that card that we had on file. So not just having the card on file for co-pays and deductibles at the time of service and same day cancellations, but we're also going to charge any balance that's due at the end of the month. And so
Now
we have
that's
this
a
in our
cool
paper.
little nuance because I highly promote to if you have a cancellation fee, yeah, well, number one, have your credit cards on file, but charge the cancellation fee and make sure you're collecting at the time of service. But you did something, you took it a step further. And so if there is a patient balance remaining that obviously hasn't already been sent to, if it's still in the works going through insurance, then that's not going to be charged to them. But if there's a balance to the patient after it's been through insurance, then you have it in your financial paperwork that you're going to charge that at the end of each month.
We do, yeah. And surprisingly, we haven't had an issue with this with patients. We let them know, it's all in our paperwork,
Right.
that we will notify them a week before what their balance is so that they have time to call and have any
Mhm.
conversations that they want to about it. And then we
Mhm.
let them know the date that their card will be charged for that
Mhm.
balance. And I did play around a little bit with the text message that goes out at that week before,
Okay.
um, just to give it a more positive light. No, we're very thankful for your business, and I think I've got the right verbiage now because we really don't have any issues with it, and we're
That's
now
amazing.
on top of it. So people initially
Nice.
when we started that, there were the AR was. I mean, there's people that had balances from 6 months ago
Mhm.
or more. And so they're getting these messages and they're like, oh, wait, this was a long time ago. But
Right.
now we're communicating this and we're collecting, within 30, 45 days of when their visit was.
Mhm.
And it has not been, it's people understand, and it's worked very well.
Yeah, as people get some distance from the care that they provide, they're gonna discount the services that you provided if it's a year later, right? What did you guys do for me again? I don't even remember. And you're coming at them with a bill of $600, right? They're like, why am I paying this $600 again? I don't understand. Whereas if along the way, you're month to month, you're saying, hey, this month we're collecting $85 towards your balance for physical therapy. We really appreciate your services. Thank you so much. Do that a number of months over time while your services are fresh in their mind. Either they're still receiving services or you've just gotten them better through a full plan of care. Then that's much easier to swallow for the patients, I'd imagine. And then it's also easier for you to collect the money. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
a huge game changer. As you created the paperwork for that, is that something that you sent past a compliance agent or a lawyer or something like that? Or how did you draft the paperwork?
Well, I did a lot of research.
Good. All right.
I did
And if
not,
you
yeah,
and if you stole it from somebody, that's fine too.
probably so. Yeah. I don't know exactly where I came up with it, but I got to a point where I figured out, okay, that's what has to be on there for
Yeah,
this to legally take place.
there you go. I
And
gotcha.
yeah, you have to have the last four digits and then their card code and billing zip and a signature on it.
Yeah.
And of course their name. So,
What's your EMR? Does that store it for you now at this point, or are you still using a separate
ah,
third vendor?
yeah. So wonderful progression for WebPT. They do have a merchant services vendor now that integrates with the EMR. So whenever you check in the patient, you can, in that same screen, you can store the credit card and then just charge their card every time when
Perfect.
you check in the patient.
Mhm.
So they have it set up to where you can't like miss a payment if you've checked somebody in, as
Nice.
long as you've put in their
Credit
payment,
card information.
what they owe at the
Yeah,
start of their setup.
gotcha.
And
Did
so that's
WebPT have some paperwork for you that to recommend to for them to fill out and sign off on or anything like that? Did you get a template from WebPT at all?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
Um,
All right.
and they use a third party. I think it's WorldPay.
Okay.
And that would make sense that they would provide some paperwork guidance now that you mention it,
They might have
for
it.
storing the
Yeah.
credit card.
You just might have to
Yeah.
look for, or if you ask their customer service, I'm sure they direct you in the right way, either direct you towards
Yeah.
WorldPay or something on their website. I'm sure they'd have something. But I
Yeah.
know as owners are listening, they're thinking, well, how do I set up that paperwork? What does that look like? And what does it say so that I can do that legally? And I you can you just did some research and you found some stuff. Google is a massive treasure trove of opportunities to steal from other people. And if you're still feeling uncomfortable about it as an owner, then yeah, just talk to a local lawyer, spend the $300 to $500 for them to review the paper and say, yeah, this is legit and you can do this in our state. And then do it, but don't use the lack of the paperwork or I don't have that paperwork to not move forward on this because you're losing a ton of money the longer you don't keep that credit card on file.
Yeah, I agree. And I would add that I would think probably the hesitation is also not wanting to have those conversations with patients. Like, how do I say I'm going to charge you automatically?
Hmm.
So I think a copay is pretty easy to say, all right, we have your card on file. But if we're talking about charging at the end of the month or the cancellation fees, I could see where there might be more avoidance of those conversations.
Sure.
And what we do and what has worked well for us is that it's all in our paperwork. It's all
Right.
in our initial paperwork. So they don't know us yet. This is the paperwork to get started with us. There's nothing personal going on here. And lining it up at the beginning like that has really been very smooth
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
us. And I do have it on two different forms. I have like the credit card form where it says, when we're going to charge your card, and then just our policies and procedures or our policies and patient consent form.
Sure.
I have it on there also and have them initial. So they're really signing off in two different places.
Oh,
So there's
good.
really no way people could miss this.
Hmm.
And that's not something people say, I didn't know that was going to happen. Well, yeah, you did, because you had to hand us your credit card on the
Hmm.
first visit. Even if people don't owe anything, we still have that explanation that we have their credit card on
Right.
file for same day cancellations.
I
And
gotcha.
now add one more thing that I've figured out with charging the same day cancellations that has made it smoother is I have started charging those on Fridays for the entire Friday or Monday for the entire week.
Hmm.
what I found was my front desk, they're hearing all of the things on the phone, and, they're providing sympathy to the patient about whatever is going on, or, whatever reason it is that they can't make it same day. And that the charges, they still weren't charging for same day cancels. They were doing everything they could to move the appointment, but they weren't charging for same day cancels just because of that merciful heart, um, which is which is great, but healthcare is in a very different climate now.
Hmm.
Um, Reimbursement is not what it used to be. Everything's more expensive.
Right.
So, unfortunately, I felt like this was an area where we kind of had to take some emotion out of it and just do what had to be done.
Right.
So I ended up just taking that back on my plate, looking through anybody who had a cancel on that same day. This probably sounds harsh, but I charge the fee no matter what. If they call back and they complain about the fee, then I've advised my billing manager to just refund it. You don't have to
Hmm.
argue about it, just refund it. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
worth like a big back and forth. Go ahead and refund it. But what I find whenever we charge that fee, like at kind of away from that time of a less emotional time, when
Yes.
they can kind of process it and say, okay, yeah, well, that was their fee, that was their policy, then I
Hmm.
find that we rarely get a call about it. We
Mm,
really don't even have to have a conversation about it, which
really?
is ideal.
That's good.
Um, because yeah, the front desk person having a conversation on the phone, well, if you don't come in today, I'm going to charge your card. Uh,
That's gonna escalate emotion right there.
Exactly. And it doesn't necessarily get them to come in. Everybody
Mm,
knows that the policy is there. And if they ask, am I going to be charged for not coming in today? Then the answer is yes. But
mhm.
we're not provoking a conversation and we're trying to minimize emotions on this. This isn't personal.
Right.
It's about us being able to maintain a financially responsible business.
Exactly. That's right. I love how you said that. That's exactly right. Because you have to have that. And I'm assuming your front desk person, an ideal front desk person is unemotional about the financial conversations as well. Like this is just what it is. Like and I'm assuming there's going to be maybe some pushback on number one, people handing over their credit card. I know here in Alaska, there's a lot of people who are conspiracy theorists and they're like, I don't want anyone to have any of my information ever. And I don't
Yeah.
know, want you to know where I live because I'm just going to get tracked by the deep state, and yada, yada. So that front desk person just has to be very unemotional about it and say, this is just how we do things and we keep it on file. If you don't owe anything, we're not going to charge anything. So that's simply our policy, and try to be good about it. But and so I'm assuming in this situation, your front desk person is rather mature, is not afraid of financial conversations, not afraid to take people's money, because it is their copay that they've signed up for with their insurance that they have. So I'm assuming they're in that place, or at least have that personality.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, she does a great job with those financial conversations up front.
Mhm.
Gosh, the cancellations are just so tricky because, anybody can be sick.
Right,
There, and that's why I say it can't be personal. It's
right.
just got to be, we saved this time for you. And I mean, we're not even going to say that, actually. We're not going to get into why
Yeah,
we
you
collect
just
it
don't save
necessarily.
anything. You don't say anything. You just say that's just
Yeah.
our policy. I mean, if you want to learn more, I can show you my financials and how I have to pay my physical therapists. Well, whether you show up or not,
Yeah.
I'm still have to
Right.
pay them something. Yeah, I get it.
But she's
Understood.
still getting that, like she has to be somewhat, sympathetic, but like she has to be kind to individuals on the phone that are,
Yeah.
calling
Yeah.
saying, I've got an emergency, or
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
she's got to play that role.
Yes. I understood. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so, you started off with your story about looking at your clinic from a different lens because the cancellation rates were poor. You were losing money at the beginning of 2022. Do you feel like implementing this particular process was significantly helpful in turning things around?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think it really helped the cancellation rate?
Yes. Yeah, we do have a lower cancellation rate on
Okay.
average.
At least it made it more
The
tolerable.
same,
You could swallow the cancellation rate a little bit better if you're collecting something in terms
yes.
of the
And we
cancel fees.
do, if somebody has to move an appointment, we do get people calling like a couple days early.
Hmm.
Um, and we actually say 48 hours on our paperwork,
Okay.
but we charge at 24 hours.
Okay.
So we do have people calling earlier, so that gives us time to get somebody in off the wait
Oh,
list.
okay. I got it.
And so that's been, yeah, we get
Yeah.
more notice now, I would
Gotcha.
say.
Yeah. And so it sounds like it was a number of factors that help you turn around things financially. It wasn't just the implementation of this particular uh, credit cards on file, payment at the time of service, collecting balances at the end of the month. That was all super helpful, I'm assuming, right?
Mhm.
In getting your numbers back, but it wasn't the only factor, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Gosh, my mindset changed quite a bit.
Mhm.
Just was starting to work with you guys and just how I was leading the clinic. My expectations for the staff and what the clinic was doing changed pretty significantly in the past year with working with you guys. I did get I did get a renegotiated rate with United Healthcare.
Nice.
Um, yeah, which I'm gonna actually ask for another increase again, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, multiple factors for sure have definitely turned the clinic around and had my best year right next to my worst year
Oh, really?
after yeah, just getting realizing that some dramatic things had to happen.
Gotcha. So you improved yourself as a leader. You found a way to hold your team more accountable to production, is what I'm
Mhm.
hearing. But
Yes,
also implementing systems in place so that you are collecting at the time of service and not letting that extra cash potentially fall through the cracks. And
absolutely.
what I'm and I just imagine that your AR aging report, like the 120 plus, is next to nothing. If it's not, I mean, there aren't any patient balances sitting out there, I'm assuming, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, our aging report looks pretty good. I've got somebody that does an amazing job with our billing,
Uh-huh.
and pretty much has down how all the different insurances work. So
Great.
the AR, that's definitely something we didn't have to. The only issue was the collections. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Sure.
it's just collections from insurance companies at that point. I mean, if you have the
Mhm.
credit card on file and you're collecting at the time of service and then collecting their balances at the end of the month, there's nothing more to collect. And
Yeah.
or am I missing something?
No, that's
No,
absolutely
that's
right.
it, right?
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
on top of it. For patient balances, you guys are crushing it. And I can't say that for a lot of PT clinics out there. There's a lot of patient balances that are just sitting on the books and that probably, half the time are not going to get collected based on the statistics, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so it's a great formula that you've put in place to get things set up. Um, you did share with me in emails some of the your cancellation policy and how you charge credit cards. I question whether or not I'm willing to share that with owners simply because I don't want to say that we're promoting some kind of legal advice or anything like that. But I
Right.
would recommend people consider looking into talking to compliance officers if they have to, maybe with BCMS about keeping cards on file, what paperwork they might need to have, check with their EMRs, talk to an attorney if they have to once they have some paperwork and some and things together and just make sure that and also check with the see what's online and see what other people are doing for their clinics. And I think that just getting started can make a huge difference. And did you as one of my last questions is, as you implemented this initially, did you initially get some pushback, or did you find that patients were pretty understanding and like, okay,
Yeah, so kind of scary initially implementing it.
right?
And what I told my staff was if we don't, if someone will not put their card on file, then we won't see them. And I felt like I needed to not
Strong
have
stand,
any gray area there
right?
because there's always going to be, if somebody wants to have a conversation about it, like then the front desk is in this back and forth with them, and then they're like, all right, well, this person didn't want to do it, so we didn't. So
Mhm.
I felt like starting out I had to make it a hard, like, a black and white. Either you have it and you can start treatment, or we don't have it and you can't start treatment.
Mhm.
So I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know how many people we were going to have turn away and not
Mhm.
do therapy with us because of this. And it turns out very, very few. I would say less than 1%.
So a few people, maybe.
Maybe a few people. I mean, the vast majority of the time, people don't blink an eye because it
Mhm.
is more common now. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, massage therapist is doing it, your
Mhm.
hairstylist is doing it, some doctor's offices are doing it.
Yeah. And more doctors' offices should. Well,
Yeah,
especially physical
absolutely.
therapists, as often as we see patients as well, completely different compared to a doctor who you might see once every so often. Um, but if I'm going to see you one, two, three times a week on a regular basis and have to collect that copay over and over and over again, then yeah, let's just keep the credit card on file, make it easy, especially when it comes to children. And I don't know if you see a lot of children, but it's left to the children to bring in the credit card from their parents and like, oh, my mom
Oh,
forgot to give me my credit card today, and so I can't pay the copay. Um, yeah, good luck collecting on that later on.
yeah, absolutely. I will add in, I had a boss before I opened my own clinic, and I can't remember the conversation, but what he said to me was, physical therapist, you all have this Peace Corps gene. Like you all want to give away services for free. And he's completely right. I don't know what it is about our profession, whether that's just what, like we're drawn to physical therapy and we kind of
Mhm.
have that as a nature, initially, or if our schools do it to us.
That's
Who
part of
knows?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a mistake on our part. We have to understand our value and
Mhm.
not not feel bad about collecting for our services.
Totally. I mean, we want to be liked, right? And our profession shows that the way our profession interacts with other professions is we're willing to be subservient. We want to be liked, and we want to play nice with everybody instead of taking a stand and say, no, we want to be viable and we want to survive, and there's nothing wrong with that, and we want to be profitable, and there's nothing wrong with that either, and just taking the stand. So I love how you took that challenge or that problem that you faced in 2021, 2022, and turn that into a great turning point in your clinics. And you can look back on that and see the significant difference that's made from your clinic in 2020 to now. Well, 20 might not be a good one to measure off of, but you know what
Right.
I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Your clinic's completely different than it was before. I'm assuming financially and also culturally and production wise and all those kind of things. It's a different clinic, and it's probably because you went through some of those hard times.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Cool. Well, congratulations. Thanks so much for sharing today,
Yeah.
your experience. I wanted to highlight that, like I said at the beginning, simply because so many owners, like I said, I think a minority of PT owners are doing it, and more of them need to be, if not all of them need to be. So thank you so much for sharing your experience. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been
Are
great.
you willing to share any how people can get in touch with you, whether it's your social medias or email or anything like that?
Sure. Email would probably be best. And
Hmm.
it's Kristi at beyondtherapyandwellness.com. So Kristi at beyond therapy and wellness.com.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.